have to listen and pay attention to where he is. Sometimes you might not hear the airport that he says, but one thing that you'll hear is the runway at McClellan is runway 16. We don't have a runway 16 here. So when you hear that, you can make an assumption that that's not for you. Unicom is also another frequency. Stands for Universal Communications. That would be somebody like the fuel provider or a maintenance shop or an FBO at an airport. You can, from the air or the ground, call them. You know, if you're in a corporate jet coming in, you want to have rental cars for your passengers and get gas coming, you could call them while you're in the air. Or even on the ground, you're taxiing up in your little airplane, you can call Bald Eagle and say, hey, we want some gas, bring the gas truck over. ATIS stands for Automatic Terminal Information Service. It's a broadcast of aeronautical weather information, and it's generally computer-based. It transmits continuously. So Columbia here has one. You punch that up and get your weather. So listen to that. It's 124.6. Is it not working? Is it working for you the other day?
Yeah, yeah, it should be working.
No, it's not.
It's
Could be that right. There you go. ASOS, similar in its automated weather. There are different types of weather information that an ASOS gives you versus an ATIS, or sorry, an ASOS versus an AWOS here. And we'll go over that more in the weather section. PTT is push to talk. That's the button that you will push on the stick or the yoke to transmit on the radio. UHF and VHF are different radio wave bands. UHF is primarily military. VHF, which stands for very high frequency, is our general aviation air band, and that's 108 to 137 megahertz. That might be a test question, but all of our general aviation frequencies are between 108 and 137. Another terminal here would be controlled airport versus uncontrolled. Basically, does it have a tower or no tower? A little bit more to controlled versus uncontrolled when we get to talking about airspace, but as far as an airport and a tower goes, controlled airport would have a tower, uncontrolled would not. The term hold short means to stop a taxi and hold or stop short of maybe an intersecting taxiway or a runway, and we'll practice that a little bit here tonight as well.
For the CTAF, is there like a general frequency that's used?
Yeah, and that's
throughout?
it's published on your VFR charts or the facilities directory, that little green book I had last
But I
week.
mean, like more common. Like, is there one that's generally like a default, or no?
Each airport's different.
Okay.
Because if Modesto had the same one in Stockton, you could be,
It
you'd be hearing
transfers
both of
that
them.
far.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah, you'd be real surprised. Where was I? Was in over New Mexico or Arizona in a little airplane, and I was picking up a guy calling a Unicom frequency in, I think, Arkansas. In the jet,
Okay,
trying to get his
yeah.
rental cars.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
listening to him. I thought I was pretty
Yeah,
impressed.
it
It's a
makes
little
sense
goofy
if it
radio.
go that
Oh,
far.
that's pretty cool. VHF versus UHF. I'm sure there's a lot more to this, but VHF band, very high frequency. UHF's military. You'll see UHF frequencies on a lot of publications, and it's generally twice what the VHF frequency is. But you'll never really need to mess with that. All right, here is a basic radio right here. We've got two parts of the radio. We've got, we talked about this in the equipment section, I think in week 2. Here's your communications portion of the radio, and this is a navigation portion of the radio. They're both radio, but this has a different set of frequency, and it's used to operate a navigational aid, usually some kind of indicator in the cockpit. So we don't really need to focus on this portion right now. Here would be your frequency that you have tuned up. It's got the little digits there. And here's your knob, and you can turn that to adjust the frequency. Actually, it'll turn this one here. So as you adjust the knob here, these numbers change until you get the frequency that you want. Then you push this little button and it would switch the two. And so that now you would be using, 3697 would be over here. And here's your little volume knob. It's pretty easy to use. Same principle over here. Move the knob, it changes the frequencies. This button, you just switch it over. And most radios work on a similar principle. They'll all look different, but they're relatively simple to use. Some of them have mechanical numbers. You're turning a knob and it goes clunk, clunk, clunk. Or you could be using a handheld radio, it's digital like this. You punch in the numbers. And only because if you fly our Cessna over here, you'll use this radio in it. There's lots of different types, but they're basically giant walkie-talkies. And these have all kinds of different functions in them that are a little complicated. But to use the basic communications function of it, it really is a walkie-talkie. The transponder radio, look like one of these two here, is a device that transmits a code to air traffic control, which allows them to see you on the radar screen. The air traffic controller will give you the 4-digit code, which you plug into the transponder, and that identifies you separate from other airplanes. So here, that's often called a squawk code. So if the air traffic controller said squawk 1, 2, 3, 4, you turn those knobs, and that's just a mechanical knob. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Same with this one, only this is digital. If he says squawk 3, 5, 7, 1, you just punch 3, 5, 7, 1. Enter. Loads up there. The other functions are stuff you can learn later on. But there are important things to know on the transponder. One are some of these emergency codes. If you put 7500 in that box, that means you're being hijacked. So if you are given a number, what happens with these old ones is they'll give you a number, and these digits only go 1 through 7. So you might not have the transponder that normally would say 1200. 1200 is your normal VFR, almost if you're not using it kind of code. And for whatever reason, if you had wrong numbers and you actually flip through that and you rotate that knob backwards, it might say 7. And then if you had 7500, 7600, 7700 queued up in there, that sets off all kinds of alarms at air traffic control. So you want to be careful as to which way you go. But 7500 is unlawful interference, basically being hijacked. 7600 is a good one. If your radios go out on you, plug 7600 and then they would know that you don't have radios. Or 77 means emergency. ADSB is a new thing. It stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. And basically what it's doing is it takes the old technology that was a transponder, that's essentially ground-based radar, and is replacing it with satellite-based information. And January 1st, 2020, airplanes flying into certain airspaces have to have ADSB units. A lot of them on airplanes look like this. This on the left wingtip as a light, or this on the tail as a light. Basically, it transmits a GPS-based position for satellite information. And there's a lot to know about that depending on what airspace you go into. We haven't really talked much about airspace yet, but A, B, and C airspace. E airspace above 10,000 feet, you have to have it within 30 nautical miles of a B airport, such as Livermore would be 29 miles outside of SFO, and it's under the 30 miles, so you need ADSB to go to Livermore. And there's a lot of information on that. That as you start to fly, you'll learn how that operates. Most of these, there's nothing that the pilot operates. You turn the lights on, and it's operating. Okay, the ATIS. ATIS stands for Automatic Terminal Information Service. Continuous broadcast of aeronautical information, such as weather and runway closures, and other airport information. Sometimes something called a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen. I think we talked about that last week, which is an alert for a special condition or unsafe condition at an airport or an area. You listen to it and get the information before you took off. And depending on the kind of airport, like Columbia here being an uncontrolled airport, you take that information and you apply it to your flight and you leave. If it was a controlled airport, it'd give you a code that you would relay to the air traffic controller. That way he knows you have received the information that's broadcast in the ATIS. So let's see, do I have an example of one? There you go.
Zulu, wind 150 at 5, visibility 20, ceiling 22,000 broken, temperature 22, dew point 5, altimeter 3028. Preferred runway 30. Runway 0422, closed due to construction. IFR clearance delivery is on frequency 121.8. On initial contact, inform subbrief. You have ATIS, Lima.
All right, that makes sense to anybody.
Airport information, Lima, weather 1700 Zulu, wind 150 at 5, visibility 20.
Let's see if I can position that.
You have an LTO?
28.
All right, they're perfect. Okay, so Sudbury Airport. I don't know where that is. Information Lima. That's the code that he gives you to make sure you receive the ATIS. So you're listening to it. The information is Lima. So you're going to relay Lima to the controller when you're done recording this information. 1700 Zulu is the time. Wind is velocity 150 knots or direction 150 at 5 knots. Visibility 20 statute miles. Ceiling 22,000 feet. Temperature 22 degrees Celsius. Dew point 5. Your barometer on your altimeter is 30.28 inches. What's called standard day is 29.92. You are looking for preferred runway 30. Why is that? Maybe because of the wind. Also maybe because runway 422 is closed due to construction. And down here at clearance delivery, that is a frequency that you might find at a busier airport. You're now going to contact them on this frequency and tell them that you have information, Lima, and you want to take off and go here or there, or up or down, or wherever you might be going.
LaGuardia Airport information X-ray 12510. Wind 320 at 9er. Visibility 10. Few clouds at 25,000. Temperature 20, dew point 14, altimeter 3013. LaGuardia Tower evacuated arrival, contact New York departure for advisory. Runway 422 closed. Runway 1331 closed. LaGuardia class Lava services available on frequency
Why might the airport be closed?
105.
9/11.
Advise on initial contact. You have information X-ray.
And that could be those robot ones, especially when you got shitty radio and everything's loud. You're squeezing your headset to try to hear it.
What are they saying?
Here's an example of ASOS. We'll go into this more at, when we talk about weather, but here's a screenshot from ForeFlight, which is a great app on your phone that everybody uses these days. And here is the convoluted FAA or NOAA weather codes that they use for it. But the good news is ForeFlight decodes this for you into plain English. So KMOD is Modesto, and it says 302053Z. That stands for the 30th day of the month, so this was May 30th at 20:53 Zulu. That translates to 1:53 p.m. Wind is 290 at 290, 15, gusting 25 knots. 290, 15, 25 knots. 10 statute miles visibility. Visibility 10 miles right there. clear, temperature 26, temperature 26, dew point 9, dew point 9. Your altimeter 29 or 9 or 5, 29 or 9 or 5. I mean, like this, they give you it all for you right here. So, Dad, use your phone and
Yeah.
Bluetooth there and
So
call
those
some of
terms
those.
are, it's raw data at the top and then decoded, is what you'll see as an option frequently.
And your FA written test will have this raw data, weather that you have to decode on your own. But once you do it a few times, everything is in this order. When you get it on the radio or you read it, all in the same order, so you kind of get the rhythm and the cadence of everything that's there. And you'll really quickly realize where you forgot some information. It's kind of based on how,
Same order every time.
what's that?
Yeah, it's the same order every
Yeah,
time.
it's the same order. Go ahead, play whatever you got.
There you go. Just quiet.
Going through change right now, 6 o'clock.
What's the SLP?
That's a good question. Sea level pressure,
Ah,
140, 140 feet. What is this, Dad?
What is it?
What is our here?
Temperature.
206,
again,
2. No, I don't know what that
it's
is.
26.
Rod?
Yeah, Rod, Mr. Instrument Pilot? All that.
And Zulu times.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The Zulu time, what that means
Yeah.
is clocks, because you change time zones a lot,
Okay.
basically use one time zone called Universal Coordinated
Okay,
Time.
the
Or
whole-
Zulu is the nickname, and that is through Greenwich Zero longitude
Okay.
in
In
England.
England, yeah.
And so we are 7 hours, we're actually 8 hours
Yeah. Okay.
west. And then when we, springtime hour forward, we become 7 hours. So hence that's the difference right there. And so the reason for this, what called Zulu time is, instead of everybody saying, well, what time zone are you on for this weather? The weather's issued in
Just 137
Universal
Bravo, a little
Coordinated
more
Time.
tower, keep your speed up, make straight in, runway 25 right, report at 4 miles.
That's where longitude starts too, hung in Greenwich.
Well, time zones are not
It's like
necessarily
zero.
strictly.
Here.
Call one of these.
Okay.
Papa, runway 25 right, clear for the afternoon 28010.
Put on Bluetooth speaker.
Here, Papa, clear for the afternoon 25 right.
So almost all the airports will also have the weather on a phone number.
Oh,
Because the idea is you're getting ready for your flight and you want to get the weather before you get in the airplane.
yeah.
So you can pick up the phone and call. And this app that you can get on your phone is fairly pricey. The cheap one's $120 a year.
Whoops, this did not be Bluetooth.
Contact NorCal approach on 124.8 on the ground or 123.85 when airborne. NorCal approach control phone number, area code 9016-361-0516.
Go through this one more time. The important part is
Modesto City
first.
County Shamfield.
So
Automated weather observation. 0053 Zulu. Wind 310 at 17. Peak gusts 23. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 29 Celsius. Dew point 06 Celsius. Altimeter 2984. Remarks. Density altitude 1,900.
yeah.
Modesto Tower.
So that was this in plain English, essentially. So, and this is about weather. We'll talk more about weather later. Different types of air traffic controllers. you have the airport controller or the tower. You would have maybe the ground controller at a busier airport. You also have approach control or center. You might have clearance delivery, and you also have flight service stations. This slide is not right. Types of airports have air traffic controllers, generally bigger airports. Modesto, Stockton, Fresno, Sacramento, Livermore. Airports that don't have towers, Turlock, Merced, what else is around here? Pine Mountain Lake or Lodi. So when talking to an air traffic controller, this would be a airport tower, if you will. Who you are, where you are, and what you want. And if there is weather at that airport, which there usually is when there's a tower, the ATIS information. So you're gonna get that ATIS as you're approaching the airport, or before, when you're getting the airplane ready to take off, you would get that weather from the ATIS. And you'd include whatever that ATIS code is, the ATIS information in your transmission to the air traffic controller, or if you're on the ground, getting ready to take off, you'd be calling a ground controller. So, an example, let's say we're flying to Modesto. Who you are, Cessna 89567. Where you are, 10 miles east of Modesto. What you want to land. That'd be a radio call. Modesto Tower, Cessna 89567. 10 miles east of Modesto, landing. Since Modesto's gonna have a weather station, you're gonna have to give him the ATIS information also. So he might come back and says, Cessna 89567, he's gonna want your transponder squawk code, and then he'll probably give you all the weather, since you didn't prove to him that you know it by giving him that ATIS information. So say, wind is, 280 at 5 knots, landing runway 28. And you'd read that back to him. If you need the ATIS, you give him the ATIS. Let's see. So here would be an example. Dad, be the ATC.
Okay.
Fresno Tower, Cessna 89567, inbound from the north at 3,500 feet landing.
Cessna 89567 Fresno Tower, local altimeter 2975, squawk 5678.
So, the squawk is that transponder code that we showed, those 2 boxes of transponders, so you set that in there. The altimeter code is that little window on the altimeter.
Do we have an altimeter somewhere, Andy? Just like
No.
you knew. What will look like? There's a little window, there's a little knob, and you're gonna set it whenever you hear somebody say altimeter. You're gonna move that a little bit, and that's gonna calibrate it to the destination.
Your altimeter is a barometer, so the pressure changes from one area to the next. So to make sure everybody's at the same altitude, we want to set the barometers to the same value. So Modesto Tower is going to give you the Modesto barometer settings you put into the altimeter, and that way your altimeter is the same as every other airplane. So then you'd reply, 2975, squawk 5678, and then of course you're telling her
Cessna
895.
89567 contact, radar contact, 9 miles north of Fresno Airport, enter a right base for runway 29 right, report 4 miles, and advise when you have information Lima.
So I didn't give him the information, so that's a good ad there, Dad. Report 4 mile base, runway 29 right, and we have information Lima.
Roger, Cessna 89567, traffic 12 o'clock, 700 feet is a Piper on the right base for the pattern. You're number 2 behind him, clear to land 29 right.
Clear to land, runway 29 right. Number 2, traffic in sight. So anytime you're given a runway assignment, you have to read that runway assignment. Last week we showed how there could be a left and right runway, parallel runway. So it's not just runway 29, it's runway 29 R or right, or maybe 29L for left. But that's an important thing to know. Anytime you're given a runway, you have to read the runway, and you always have to read, if there's a runway assignment, you read back the runway and your tail number. These are requirements. Let's try another one. Livermore Ground, Cessna 1234 is at parking, taxi for takeoff with information Alpha.
Cessna 1234, taxi via Alpha, Charlie, hold short of 25 right.
Taxi to 25 right via Alpha Charlie, hold short of 25 right. So Alpha and Charlie are taxiway instructions. Remember we talked about the black box that had the letter for the taxiway? So those are the taxiway he's telling me to go. Somewhere in Livermore, there's taxiway Alpha and Charlie. You could pull up your airport diagram and you could look at that map and go, there's Alpha and there's Charlie, that's the way I need to go.
But if you just answered Roger, he'd say no.
Yeah, he would have given you a taxi. So, okay, now he gave us the taxi clearance, we taxied to the runway, and now we're doing our pre-flight checks, and we're ready to fly. So now we call the tower. First we talked to the ground frequency, now we're talking to the tower frequency. Livermore Tower, Cessna 1234, holding short of 25 right for right close traffic. What's right close traffic? Right close traffic is we want to stay in the traffic pattern and practice landings. We're just going to do circles and keep doing practice landings. So that's what traffic is. Right close traffic would be. Right being the direction of the turn, and close traffic meaning you're not leaving anywhere.
Cessna 1234, clear for takeoff, 25 right, closed traffic pattern approved.
Your response, clear for takeoff, 25 right, and what's missing here?
Tail.
Tail number. Good. And as we're flying along, okay, we're in the traffic pattern. Then the tower's going to come on at some point.
Cessna 1234, 5, clear to land 25 right, number 3 behind the skyline.
Reply, clear to land, runway 25 right, number 3. What's missing? Tail number. And I don't know how that 5 got in there. All right, so put on live ATC if you can. So here's our map, and we'll go, I think this is next week's stuff is maps. Did everybody order their charts?
At Golf for the Bay Area Club.
Cessna 21730, Zulu, taxi to Bay Area, via Juliet.
Juliet to the Bay Area Club 730.
So here's Livermore Airport. And here's our diagram. We kind of looked at this last week. But here's our runways. Here's 25 left. Here's runway 25
Cessna 80 Papa, remain this frequency, or runway 25 left, taxi via Lima, Charlie.
So here's taxiway Lima. Here's taxiway Charlie. So this guy is probably over here somewhere and wanting to go here to take off again. So he probably landed, got off the runway, is somewhere over here in this vicinity, trying to go back and take off again. Of course, it's going to be quiet. That's how it works. So this is an app called Live ATC, and it's free, and you download it and you can listen to a number of different airports across the country.
Yeah, real good practice. That's on all the apps. Live ATC.
Tower 9 Papa 0, let's change to 25 right,
You
enable.
pick the airport that you want to listen to.
You can't get all the airports, but you get a lot of good ones.
Change to make right traffic, runway 25 right, follow self-assured final, runway 25 right. Click the option, make right close traffic. Change to right close traffic.
So he said, cleared for the option. The option is the pilot can either land the airplane, or the pilot can do what's called a touch and go, where you land, you keep rolling, and you take off again. That's what you're going to do a lot of in practice. Because you don't actually need to come to a stop. Once you get the airplane on the ground, you've gone 95% of the way through the landing. The last 5% is pretty easy, so you can take off and keep going. If you landed, you're slowing down here and you decided to get off right here, this is taxiway Delta, you're parked here, you might call the ground controller and say, Cessna 1234 is clear of 25 right at taxiway Delta, we'd like to taxi to Northeast Hangars. And he might say, clear to taxi to hangars via taxiway Alpha. Here's Alpha right here. So you turn right, take Alpha into the hangars. You might land here and get off at Delta and say, well, we want to taxi to Southeast hangars. So he'll say, taxi Southeast hangars via Alpha Charlie, hold short of 25 right. So you go Alpha, Charlie, and you're gonna hold short 25 right. There's the runway 25 right, so you're gonna stop right there and wait for them. And you're probably waiting because there's other people using the runway. Then it'll say, clear across 25 right, hold short 25 left. So you can now cross the runway. And there's those lines that we talked about last week, the broken lines. You can't go across the solid line, but you can go across the dotted line. So he clears you across the solid line, and you can clear that dotted line, but now you can't cross this line. So you gotta hang out in that little area there until he clears you to cross 25 left. And then he'll say, okay, Cessna 124, clear across 25 left, Kilo to South Hangars. So you can go cross 25 left, then you can take this actually Kilo into your hangars there. Let's say the wind was out of the east and we're taking off this way. You're coming out of the southeast hangars here and you want the big runway. You want 7 left.
Close traffic, 380 Papa.
So you might say, Livermore ground, Cessna 1234 is at the southeast hangars. We have the ATIS information, whatever it is. Taxi to runway 7 left. Controller will say, Cessna 1234, clear to runway 7 left via Lima Hotel, hold short of 7 left. So you taxi Lima Hotel, and there's your line, and runway 7 left, and you'd stop right there. Dad, other examples using this one? Not enough talking on the live ATC.
And you know, I was pausing him.
Oh, don't know. No, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for someone to say something.
You're better than him. Okay. And
Well, so here's our 2 little runways at Livermore, right there. I was kind of waiting for more guys calling in. So if you were,
That's 80 Papa, runway 25 left, clear for the afterwind, 27010.
clear for the option, so he's doing touch and goes here. So he's cleared to land and go away again, and he's gonna do his traffic pattern to the left down here. And remember, a standard traffic pattern is to the left, correct? Non-standard traffic pattern is to the right.
That's the 6 Hotel Golf, contact NorCal approach frequency 125.1.
So he's telling that airplane it's probably taken off and is leaving the area, and the tower control at Livermore is passing that airplane off to the approach controller, which controls the area surrounding the airports, but not the airport itself.
Diamond 9 Papa Sierra, runway 25 right, clear for the after wind, 270 at 9er.
There's probably an airplane over here. We don't get him going. It's a good thing to listen to. Put it on in the background kind of thing, and you'll pick up the order in which you say things. Everybody's intimidated by what you have to say.
Sounds like nonsense to me still.
It's going to be nonsense for a long time.
It's a foreign language. It's really hard
All right.
to follow.
CTAF is radio communications at a non-towered airport like here. CTAF stands for Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. Again, who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. So you might call on the radio and say, Columbia, Cessna 567 is 5 miles southwest of the airport over the dam, entering a right downwind for runway 17. That tells everybody else in the area what you're doing. If somebody else was in that same area, they could get on the radio and go, oh, well, what altitude are we at? Because I'm 5 miles southwest and I'm over the dam. You could also say something like Cessna 567 over Calaveras Airport, 5,000 feet, landing runway 29. Or Piper 14 Yankees, 10 miles south on the GPS approach for runway 35. Or Cessna 567 is right downwind for runway 17 at Columbia.
How soon should you call in terms of mileage out?
Perfect question. Usually about 5 miles is a good initial call. You know, in a slow airplane, it might take you a few minutes to get from 5 miles to the airport. In a fast airplane, you might want to call 10 miles out.
Okay.
You know, if you're doing 250 miles
And
an
then
hour.
probably people that are experienced, they'll recognize what your plane is and be like, oh, that's a
Yeah,
slow plane.
and
It'll take them a minute.
a lot of times when you say Cessna here, you kind of generally say the model of the airplane.
Livermore Ground, good afternoon, Bonanza 135 Joe Lima, transient
Well,
parking.
look at this. That was a good.
Coming right here.
Yeah.
25 right, touch again, Juliet
What that
Bravo.
is?
That's John, yeah.
Juliet Bravo to 25 right, 5 Joe Lima.
So that guy is going to be here in an hour, or probably 35 minutes actually, huh?
Probably, yeah, 40 probably, yeah.
Livermore Tower, Cherokee 7, 9,
You can mute now. Cessna is just the maker of that. So that's a Model 120. So you don't really say 120 because it's numbers, and that's the tail number system. So we'd call it a Cessna. But a 172 is called a Skyhawk. So you might say Skyhawk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or Bonanza, or Cherokee, or whatever the name of the airplane is. They're all a little different. And you learn that whatever airplane you're flying, and you'll start learning other airplanes, and you pick up on that. You go, oh yeah, he's really slow. You know, I'm gonna go in front of him.
So if you happen to spot another plane, say you're flying around out here, and you're headed toward the dam and you see a plane, then you would maybe,
Yeah, if you saw
Pick
another
up on the
airplane
radio
and you
just so
thought,
they
hey, he's
know
going
instead
towards
of
the
seeing.
airport too, so he might be landing. Just because there's an airport a couple miles away, airplane a couple miles away, doesn't mean he's going to the airport.
yeah.
And there's no requirement to have radios here at the airport. You don't have to be on any given frequency, you know, just in the surrounding area. So he might not be listening. It would be a smart thing if you're flying around Columbia Airport to be listening to Columbia's radio frequency, or if you're around Pine Mountain Lake, be on their frequency. But if you saw another airplane, the main thing to do is avoid him. Go away from him. All right, let's do some practice radio calls here. All right, I'll be air traffic controller, and I'm gonna call on you guys. All right, Cessna 567, clear to land runway 28. What might you say, Aiden? He's giving you a runway, so you have to say the runway.
Runway 28, Cessna 157, clear to land.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Clear to land, runway 28, Cessna 567. Good answer. All right, Cessna 567, traffic 12 o'clock, 5 miles ahead, heading towards you. Carson, what would you say to him?
Oh, let's see.
Don't think about it, just, he says, hey, there's traffic 12 o'clock. What might you say? I'm looking for the traffic. I don't see the traffic.
Yeah.
I see the traffic.
Yeah, okay,
You
yeah.
know? Looking for traffic, or traffic in sight. It's not hard stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Cessna 567, turn heading 010. What might you say, Tanya?
Cessna 567, heading 010.
Yeah. He says turn. You say, okay, we're turning.
Nice.
All right. Cessna 567, turning 010. There you go. These will get tough here. Aircraft calling Fresno approach. Say again. You called him. He couldn't hear you. So just whatever you told him, say again, right? Repeat it. Something like that. There's some stuff I want to know. Okay, I'm in an airplane on CTAF. This is CTAF, right? It's an air traffic control. Cessna calling Columbia. Where are you? I'm 5 miles south over the bridge, right? Maybe he heard you call in earlier and wasn't sure where you were. You might go, well, I'm not a Cessna. I'm a Piper. But if it's quiet, otherwise, maybe he got the type of airplane wrong or something. But he's concerned maybe you're in his area, so you can just get on the radio and say you're 3 miles southwest over the 49 Bridge. Something like that. Another tough one. Taker 82 overhead, left downwind for 3-5. What does that mean? There's fire trucks in the sky, right? You don't have to say anything. But you might say, oh, we're gonna hold short of runway 17 for the landing traffic. Or whatever, wherever you are. I mean, you don't have to respond. That's not a call you have to respond to. He's just telling you where he is. All right, Davis, for you. Aircraft calling Fresno Tower, unreadable. Say intentions.
Cessna.
I want to land. I want to leave.
Cessna 5567, wanting to land.
Yeah. Cessna 567. Want to land. Want to fly over. Never mind. You know.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Where's a good restaurant?
Where's a good place to eat?
Hello and thanks for tuning in to our 2-Minute Tuesday series. My name is Christopher Perez and I'm a flight instructor here at Aviator Zone Academy. If you're caught up on our videos, you'll already be familiar with what to do if you're lost while flying. This week we'll discuss a different scenario. What to do if you lose communications. Let's get started. Lost communications can be a worrisome and isolating experience. Pilots use radio to communicate with air traffic control to receive important instructions such as landing clearances, and also to communicate their intentions at untowered airports. Every situation is different, but here are the steps to take if you suspect you're having radio issues. Step 1, get to a safe altitude and location away from busy airspace and other aircraft so you can begin troubleshooting the radio. Step 2, troubleshoot your radio. This is done by checking that you're on the correct frequency. If you receive no reply on the current frequency, try a different one, such as 121.5, and ask for a mic check. Next, you want to check the volume on the radio and ensure that your headset is plugged in. Lastly, try turning your radios and electronic equipment off and back on again. If you've done all that and you're still in the dark, we can move on to step 3. If you have a Bluetooth-enabled headset, you can connect it to your phone and call the tower directly and let them know that you're having radio issues. That way, you can communicate and land safely. If this is not an option and you don't have a backup such as a handheld radio, you can move on to step 4. Squawk 7600 on your transponder. This will let ATC know that you can't communicate and it'll let them plan accordingly for your landing. Step 5. Arrive at the airport. Remain outside or above the Class Delta airspace until you can determine the flow of traffic. Once the flow has been determined, enter the traffic pattern and await light gun signals from the air traffic control tower. And finally, step 6. Land. Now that you've been squawking and circling around the tower-controlled field, you can expect light gun signals from the tower. Once you receive a steady green light, you're clear to land. So, there you have it. These are the steps you should take if you find yourself without communications. Hello and thanks for tuning in to our 2-Minute Tuesday series. My name is Christopher Perez and I'm a flight instructor.
God, I put that button so many times. So, kind of a new thing is being able to call the tower. That's kind of handy when you're panicking. Everything else said is, it's not wrong, but yes, if you're trying to land at a towered airport with those issues, the main thing you're going to do is you're going to fly around the airport. You're going to enter the traffic pattern. You're going to get light gun signals, and that's what this next video is about. But if you're concerned, go to another airport. You know, go land at an airport with no tower. Go to Oakdale, land there, and get on the ground. You can figure out whatever your problem is, or call maintenance, call someone that can help you. Well, let's watch this one about light gun signals, because this one will happen.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in to this week's 2-Minute Tuesday. In last week's episode, we briefly discussed what to do if you lose radio communications in the air. This week, we'll take a closer look at the light gun signals air traffic control uses to communicate with airplanes in the air and on the ground. Let's get started. When it comes to light gun signals, there are 4 basic things to consider. The color being emitted, whether it's red, green, or white, the type of signal, and whether you're receiving that signal in the air or on the ground. Because you really should take off for flight without a functioning radio, we'll continue where we left off last week in the air. After squawking 7600 and circling a tower-controlled airfield, you can expect to see the following 5 signals in the air. Keep in mind that the light guns that are used are bright enough to be seen during the daytime as well. The signal that every pilot hopes to see during a lost comms emergency is a steady green light. This means that you're cleared to land. A similar signal, a flashing green light, is used to signify that you may return for landing. If you're circling and waiting for an opportunity to land, ATC may use a steady red signal to let you know to give way for other aircraft and continue circling. A flashing red signal means that the airport's unsafe. Don't land there. Last but not least, for light gun signals in the air is an alternating red and green light, which means exercise extreme caution. Keep in mind this signal has the same meaning both on land and in the air. And now that you've landed safely, you can expect to see any of the 5 following light gun signals. First up, a flashing green light means you're cleared to taxi. Up next, a steady red light is just like a red light on the street and means stop. Meanwhile, a flashing red light means to taxi clear of the active runway. In the event that you're taking off without a functioning radio, you'll need to know about the following final 2 signals. A solid green light means you're clear for takeoff. The final signal is a white light. When you see this bright light flashing your way, this is ATC telling you to stop what you're doing and return back to your starting point. Having a radio failure is a situation we hope no one has to go through. Being prepared, having a backup radio, and knowing these signals can make all the difference should you ever be in that situation. Have you ever flown without a functioning radio? Tell us about your experience. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to this week's 2 Minute Tuesday.
All the time.
In last week's episode,
All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go outside. We have chalked out here on the ramp, Columbia Airport, and we're going to practice flying the traffic pattern and working the radios.
All right.
So let's head on out.
Would be an airplane?
I was kind of hoping Brad would be here because he's one of the 2 guys that's actually taking lessons right